So good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of our convening. We hope you feel as energized as we do. We had such a great time debriefing last night after our day together, and all of us just felt that there were so many powerful things shared yesterday, and we're looking forward to more today. My name's Elisa Moore, and I'll be your co-MC for today. I'm the co-lead for Strategies Technical Assistance, a program of Sacramento's Child Abuse Prevention Center and All for Kids in Southern California. Strategies TA supports prevention collaboratives, child abuse prevention councils, family resource centers, and their networks throughout the state. We're thrilled to come together again with you today to hear from a variety of subject matter experts and to support your in-person connections with your prevention teams. Before we jump into our content, we again want to say thank you to the 25 plus members of the statewide convening planning team. We've been coming together since last July to make this event happen. This year we had a robust, diverse, cross-sector planning team with representation from parents and youth, with lived expertise, tribal consultants, various county and state departments, state associations, child abuse prevention councils, and other community-based organizations. We sincerely hope today's program supports your efforts to create change, and we thank you all for being here. And now I'd like to introduce my strategies co-lead, Sarah Lacroix.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Lisa. My name is Sarah Lacroix, and I'm a co-lead for Strategies TA with All for Kids in Southern California, along with the director for the Los Angeles County Child Abuse Prevention Councils. I'm thrilled to be here with all of you again for an exciting second day and looking forward to all the learning and sharing that's to come. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we get started, here are a few more housekeeping items for today for those of you who weren't here yesterday. The main session of our convening is hosted as a Zoom webinar. Due to the large size of our webinar, the camera and mic functions are disabled. Please use the Q&A feature located on the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen for content-related questions, and use the Zoom chat for tech-related needs. This event is being recorded and will be shared. The slide deck and all other materials are located in the Resources tab under Documents on the Whova webpage and app. Attendees will have access to the materials on Whova for 3 months after our event ends. In terms of emojis and reactions, please adjust the settings for the reactions and emojis intensity if it feels too distracting for you. You can also do so on the Zoom toolbar by clicking on reactions and changing the intensity from full to medium or low. Lastly, please remember to complete the evaluation survey at the end of each day to help our planning for next year. Like last year, can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. Like last year, we're offering emotional support through 3 licensed clinicians, Jamie Bardacki, Melissa Corden, and Amy Kay. Amy can provide support in American Sign Language, and she's a member of the Advocacy Council for Allies of Dead Children, ACADC, and works for 5 Acres in Los Angeles, which provides mental health services in English, Spanish, and is the only deaf services program in LA County. They provide therapeutic services in ASL to deaf and hard of hearing children and deaf adults to help families stay together and thrive. Thanks to 5 Acres for allowing Amy to spend the day with us to support our deaf and hard of hearing participants. Lastly, we recognize that many of us here today have been impacted by trauma and family violence. We encourage you to call or text the number here to reach Beatrice Schaffert, who will connect you to a clinician should difficult feelings surface today. Now I'll pass the mic to our esteemed colleague and planning partner, Andrea Lewis, who will provide our acknowledgement statement.
Good morning, everyone. We gather today in California on the ancestral lands of over 100 tribes with a shared purpose to protect children and strengthen families. As we do this work, we acknowledge the many communities whose labor, love, and resilience have shaped our state and continue to enrich it. We recognize the profound contributions of African Americans whose strength and leadership, despite generations of injustice and inequity, have helped build the social, cultural, and civic fabric of our communities. We also honor sovereign tribes, the original stewards of the land, and their enduring strength through historic displacement and systemic challenges. We support their ongoing efforts to keep tribal families together through culturally supportive practices. We also acknowledge immigrants, women, and other historically marginalized communities whose care, work, advocacy, and organizing have sustained families and advanced justice across the state. Child abuse prevention requires us to confront hard truths. We know that systemic inequities, poverty, racism, and lack of access to resources place disproportionate stress on families, particularly African American and Native American families. Prevention is not only about responding to harm, it is about building conditions where families have what they need to thrive: economic stability, community support, culturally responsive services, and policies rooted in dignity and equity. As we reflect on the past and look toward the future, we commit to advancing equitable and compassionate systems that uplift children and caregivers alike. We pledge to work collaboratively across sectors to dismantle barriers, center community voices, and ensure every child in California grows up safe, supported, and valued. Together, let's honor the labor of those who have come before us and strengthen our shared responsibility to create a future where all children and families can flourish. Thank you.
Andrea, thank you so much for that heartfelt acknowledgement. That was really great. Much appreciated. I'd like to, yes, I'd like to move us into talking a little bit about today's purpose and what is today about. This convening is a working convening for learning and for action, an opportunity to gain insight into relationship building approaches with lived experts in tribal nations, a space to collaborate and learn from peers, and an opportunity to strengthen relationships amongst your comprehensive prevention plan team members. Next slide. Okay, so our agenda for today. I won't read all of this because you do have it in Whova, but I want to point out a couple of key points. Is that we'll have 2 county team session times, which is when you'll be either in person, virtual, or hybrid with your county team. The first team session is at 10:30, and the second team session is at 1:50 p.m. So we'll go from 9 to 4 today as a whole, and really looking forward to the wonderful learning and presentations today. Next slide when you can. All right, and so since we're, not all together virtually today, we'd like to get a feel for which counties and tribes are represented here, because many of you are all together in the room, in the same space room together in your county. So if you can please take a moment to scan the QR code with your phone, or you can also, I believe the team is going to put it in the chat as well. There we go, Mentimeter participation link if you are on a computer. So take a moment and please tell us what kind of California county and or tribal nation are you located in or representing today? And we won't cover the results of that because it's not quite a poll we can pull up easily, but we will happy to let people know if you're interested after the event. Okay, take a moment to do that, and in the meantime, I'm going to keep us moving to the next slide, please. Oh, lovely. Okay, great. I have the distinct pleasure of being able to introduce Tina Rios, who is going to provide a community pathways overview for everyone here today. Tina is a community consultant. She's an Indigenous Apache and Dene mother and community leader rooted in the foothills of Altadena, California. She serves on the Los Angeles County Office of Violence Prevention's Community Partnership Council and is a core leader of the Reimagine Child Safety Coalition, advancing prevention-centered strategies that reduce family separation and systems harm. At the state level, she serves on California's Mandated Reporting to Community Supporting Task Force, where she co-chaired the Lived Experience Expert, or LEX committee, and contributed to efforts to narrow the legal definition of general neglect. She was subsequently appointed to the State Codified Mandated Reporting Advisory Committee, or MRAC, and also serves on the Family First Prevention Services Leadership Advisory Council and Community Pathways Subcommittee. As founder and CEO of A Child's Dream Altadena, Tina partners directly with parents through Sacred Grooves, Family Stronger Together LA, Indigenous Circles, and Positive Indian Parenting Facilitation, building regenerative community pathways rooted in culture and collective care. Welcome, Tina. So nice to have you with us.
Thank you, Sarah. It's so nice to be here. It's almost like a reunion of people that we're in this together. I'll just go ahead and start now. So I come to this work as an Indigenous mother, a community leader, and someone who has lived both upstream and downstream in systems, personally and professionally. Today, I serve through Sacred Grows and Family Stronger Together LA, working alongside partners across California to strengthen prevention and family well-being. You may have heard our panel yesterday. It was so exciting to be here, and I want to begin with a simple and powerful idea. We can always return home. Community pathways are about returning to something that has always existed. Families and communities have always known how to care for one another through relationships, culture, and connection. But over time, many of those pathways have been covered up over by systems, barriers, and inequities. What we are doing now is creating something new. We are clearing the path so families can access support in ways that feel safe, trusted, and culturally aligned without having to leave their community to find help. And that is the heart of community pathways. Next slide. Oops. So what do we mean when we say community pathways? At its core, community pathways creates what we call no wrong door access to support. That means families can reach out through places they already trust, schools, community organizations, tribal partners, faith communities, or peer support networks, and receive the help without automatically triggering child welfare or probation involvement. Participation is voluntary. Families have voice and choice, and privacy is protected. Because when support feels safe and is safe, families come earlier. And that's where prevention becomes real. But families who are eligible, prevention services can be supported through Family First funding and coordinated through family well-being plans. But funding makes these services possible. Relationships are what makes prevention work. And what this really recognizes something we already know. Communities have always been there. Community pathways simply honor that and make it easier for families to access support through trust and not fear. Building on that foundation, next slide. Building on that foundation, community pathways help organize support in a more intentional and coordinated way. One of the key tools for this is the Family Wellbeing Plan. This is voluntary, family-driven plan that centers the family's voice. It identifies their strengths, their goals, and supports their supports they choose. Sorry, tongue twister. It helps coordinate services in a way that reflects what the families actually want and what will work for them. Importantly, this is not court-ordered plan. It is not compliance-driven, It is not an investigation. It is a support pathway. And this connects directly to a larger shift happening across California and across the country. A shift from reporting families to supporting families. Because what we see over and over again is that families often need help earlier with housing, food, mental health, parenting support, and simply connection. But fear of being reported can stop them from reaching out. Community Pathways creates a bridge so families can access support earlier, voluntarily through trusted relationships. And that is how prevention becomes possible. Next slide. As we talk about this shift, and I really like the word shift, paradigm shift, right? It's important to also look honestly at how our current system is functioning. Check out this graph. Data consistently shows that Black and Native American children are reported, investigated, and enter systems at disproportionately higher rates. And these disparities persist even when poverty is taken into account. We also have to recognize the environment that mandated reporters are operating in. Many professionals are making decisions under pressure, not only thinking about child safety, but also about liability, policy, and risk to their own careers. Many of you have gotten into this field to help people. I know that. I see that. So even when they don't believe a child is unsafe, they may still feel they have to report. And that creates an impossible situation. I once heard a parent respond to a mandated reporter who said, "I don't think your child is unsafe, but I have to report." And the parent said, "You might get written up at work, but I might lose my child forever." That moment captures the imbalance of risks families are carrying. Mandated reporters are not the problem. The system is asking them to operate in a way that doesn't always align with what we know actually keeps families safe. And that is why community pathways matters. We need systems where doing the right thing for families, supporting them earlier through trust and connection, is also the safest and the most supported choice for professionals. That is the paradigm shift. It is happening now, much like a wave of change that continues to move forward. Next slide. Families are our greatest asset in ensuring children are safe. Years of data and lived experience show that children have better outcomes when they grow up connected to families and their communities, right? And yet we continue to separate families at an alarming rate, often creating immediate trauma and lifelong impacts. We all heard of ACEs. Child protection was never meant to be a catch-all solution for housing instability, poverty, mental health needs, or lack of community resources. That's why families need pathways to support, pathways that feel safe and that they trust. Trust might be a theme that we're talking about today, because communities are already strong. They already show up for families ethically, relationally, and with care. So the question becomes, how do we ethically engage with these families and communities? Valerie Frost talked about that yesterday. I was so inspired. How do we nurture these pathways so they can grow and flourish? And are we ready to accept that this requires us to trust the communities? For so long, we've asked families to trust systems. And when time and time again, that trust has led to harm. So maybe the shift is this. What if we begin believing in families, We often say that change happens at the speed of trust, and that is true, not just for families, but for relationships between communities and systems. I know there was a poll yesterday, and that was the biggest thing. That's what felt strongest with people, the relationship between communities and systems. We really want to heal. We really want to collaborate. So how do we build trust? We create truly safe pathways, pathways like family well-being plans where consent is real and we can be given and withdrawn freely. Where missing an appointment does not come with the threat of losing your child. And I know those with lived experience in this room relate to that. Where families feel and are safe to find their own path toward wellness and connection. And ideally, that path is held in community through culturally rooted peer support, where families are understood, not blamed, not shamed. We need safe passage so families can return home to where they belong, to where they are loved, and now with the resources they need to thrive. So that's why we're here. Right now, our system does not always encourage reporters to engage with families they're reporting, even though they may be in the best position to understand what support or family truly needs. So instead of defaulting to a report, with community pathways, we can now create space to consider programs, relationships, and supports that can meet those needs earlier, upstream. And a large part of this awareness so people know what exists and how to connect to it. I was part of the mandated reporting to community supporting initiative and task force. And we developed these goals, and our goal was to foster trust between systems and communities they serve. Because when support is grounded in human connection, families are able to get what they need and thrive together. We envision a community pathway so strong, so supported, and so culturally led that children can always come home to their families when the street lights come on. And many of us remember that gift. Next slide. So as you enter into this convening, I invite you to think about the many pathways you have taken to find your way home and the privilege it is to be able to go home. Community pathways are not just funded systems. They're relationships we strengthen. They're natural paths made visible again. I know a child who once drew a map at 5 years old of all the safe and trusted places he knew, hoping that one day he could find his way back home to his mother. He had been removed after she sought safety from domestic violence and was reported. I can't help to feel emotional when I think about that because his dream, his map is the community pathway. It is communities working together so families can find support earlier through people they know and the places they trust before the risk of separation ever occurs. This is a child's dream. When families are supported, children are safer, and when children are safer, communities are stronger. In 1965, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us, do not sleep during a revolution. And today that revolution lives on, but now it shows up in the form of a child who wants to be free. Free to belong, free to remain connected to their parents, community, culture, spiritual practice. For those are protective factors. Love is protection. Love is resilient and enduring. So let us remain awake during this revolution for families because we belong with each other. And I want to share something with you. That child who drew that map was my child. I dedicate this work to him. He is my compass. He is my why. He is my hero. And that is the future we are building together today. Thank you for your time. Amen. And that's it.
Oh, Tina, thank you so much. That was so beautifully said on in so many different ways. I took a couple of quick notes, and I love that you said it. I'm paraphrasing, but what if we began by trusting families? That's yeah, what if that's how it all started, right? Moving more upstream, it's a powerful question. And community pathways are not something new. It's
No.
not something that suddenly just popped up and now we're doing, right? They've always existed in communities. They're still always there in communities. Whether, whatever happens now, they will be there, right? And
Yes.
this is our new way to help to support those and to help them, yeah, become more visible, right? Thank you so much. That was a fabulous presentation and really appreciate your time.
Yeah. We must, just as people, as humans, we must believe in each other. We must believe that we deserve a beautiful community and a beautiful pathway. I tell my coalition, the most important thing you can do is believe in people, believe in families. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much. All right. Well, I'm going to keep us moving into a next powerful discussion. I'll wait for the panelists to come up. All right. And I think we'll have a few more folks who are going to get pinned here. I'll wait till they come up and then I can introduce everybody. Hello, hello. All right. Okay, there are our fabulous panelists. So I now have the distinct pleasure of supporting the Community Pathways panel discussion with Alameda County's Comprehensive Prevention Plan team, or a portion of, I should say. So I'll first go by briefly introducing our wonderful panelists today. I'll just do a brief introduction, and then the panelists will share a little bit more about themselves. So first we have with us Brittany Walker Pettigrew. Hi, Brittany. Brittany is with Alameda County Social Service Agency. She's with the Prevention and Intake Services Division for the Department of Children and Family Services. We also have with us Kimberly Murphy. Good morning, Kimberly. Director of Social Services Programs for A Better Way. We have Jorge Marino with us. Hi, Jorge. Good morning. Hi. Program Supervisor, A Better Way with Another Road to Safety program. And we also have with us Irma Freire. Hi, Irma. Good morning. Lead parent advocate, lead parent partner and advocate for A Better Way. So I'd like to ask each panelist to just share a bit more about themselves, firstly, along with what your role is in the Alameda County Community Pathways work. So maybe let's start with Brittany and then we'll kind of move down the line in the panelists. So Brittany, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be able to share with you all today. Um, as Sarah said, my name is Brittany Walker Pettigrew. I am a division director in Alameda County Social Services Agency in the Department of Children and Family Services. I have worked in child welfare for over 30 years, and I like to think of myself as having been trying to burn it down this whole time because it was not set up to do what I want us to be able to do and the beautiful image that Tina Rios shared with us today. So that's been my approach. I'm the lead for the CPP work here, and I'm just so honored to be able to work in a county that's so rich with ready and willing people to serve our community.
Great, thank you. I'll go to Kimberly next.
Hi, everybody. Kimberly Murphy, Director of Social Services Programs with A Better Way. I've been with A Better Way for about 11 and a half years. I've been also connected to this work for about 20 years. I'm also serve on the Family First Prevention Services Advisory Committee and the Community Pathway Committee as well.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kimberly. I'll go to Jorge next.
Yes, hi, good morning, everyone. Jorge Lopez Marino. I am a program supervisor at a Better Way with Another Road to Safety program. I've been with the Better Way for about a little over 3 years now. Been doing this social service work for over 10 years. I started off in reunification and moved on to preventative work after I found out that that actually existed. So here I am. And I came in as the parent partner, lived experience worker, and got promoted to supervisor, a program supervisor as of recently. So thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. I'll go to Irma next.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Irma Freire. I am a lead parent advocate here at A Better Way at the PEP program. I've been with the PEP program for going on 4 years now. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here as well.
Yeah, thank you, Irma, so much. I'm wondering, Kimberly, could you share with us a little bit more about A Better Way?
Sure. A Better Way is a community-based organization that helps children and families overcome challenges as they navigate multi-systems, including the child welfare system. Some of the services that we provide are, mental health services to children and family, parent advocacy, family reunification, preventative services, parent education classes to parents who are navigating the child welfare system. We also have transitional housing for youth, and A Better Way also provides training opportunities to the community as a whole. A Better Way has been partnering with Alameda County for the better part of 15 plus years. We've held multiple contracts with them. We currently have an oversight of 4 of our peer parent programs, which I'm over. And one of them is our differential response program, another road to safety program, and also the holder of our community pathway. All of our peer parent programs possess staff with lived expertise, and many of our formally educated staff also have lived expertise as well, navigating the child welfare system.
Yeah, that's a great design. Yeah, I think that naturally brings us, into our kind of our first question, which is, I'll go to Brittany. Can you tell us a little bit about and provide some context to the development of Alameda County's community pathways?
Yeah, well, I would say we would go way back, decades really. I can remember in the early 2000s, the work groups that started to conceive of differential response, and we did some early piloting of it. We had a neighborhood response program where we had social workers embedded in schools and community organizations. And then that sort of and those were the areas where we were experiencing the highest levels of child welfare intervention. But that eventually moved on and scaled up to our alternative response system, which is now called Another Road to Safety. And we were able to scale it up by participating in the Title IV-E waiver project, the Title IV-E waiver demonstration project. And that was started in 2007. And we started originally with 3 CBOs who were doing differential response in the 3 zip codes where we had the highest level of child removals. But over time, our model and our research led us to scaling it down to one organization, which ended up being A Better Way, that could actually serve the entire county, regardless of zip code. And it allowed us to intensify our partnership, and we were able to see all of the families in the counties that needed our help and meet them where they were. And so I'll just say another piece that I think has been a real happy accident, unplanned, but like certainly I wouldn't do it any other way, and I want to recommend it for anybody else considering their community pathway programs. A Better Way, as Kimberly mentioned, is not only our ARS provider, but she also runs the parent engagement program. And in Alameda County for about 20 years now, we have contracted with A Better Way, or I don't know if it's always been with A Better Way, but A Better Way has been running its parent engagement contract for a long, long time. And folks who successfully reunify with their children in the child welfare system are then hired by A Better Way, and they become parent advocates, and they sit at all of our policymaking tables. They attend CFT meetings, and they do all of this with salary and benefits and other professional development support. So it's a way of making the program sustainable. Well, because Kimberly runs both those programs, she's been able to create this career pathway for folks with lived experience to do things like run our ARS program. So it has really, I highly recommend that you blend both things. If you want to know how to make lived expertise a sustainable career avenue that turns into something else, that has really helped us evolve and sustain our response. A better way is not scared of our clients. So I love that. I'm just gonna say that plain. Um, when FFPSA happened and FFPS came out, it gave us an opportunity to figure out how to even scale it up even more. Because prior to that, 2017 or last year, the only way to access our ARS services was through a hotline call. We would either refer directly off the hotline without an investigation, or we would refer after an investigation if the situation was stabilized, but the family needed more support. Um, but the FFPS allowed us to add in this third pathway of being able to refer directly to the agency. And as a result, have been able to launch that program last year and really start working on like marketing directly to mandated reporters, a different option instead of focusing on like, hey, when should you call CPS? I wanted to change people's questions to who should I call and offering a better way as an option. And therefore, we targeted the highest reporters, like our school reporters. And we also targeted the folks with the lowest substantiation rates. Again, those are the education providers, but also mental health providers. But we also marketed to law enforcement as well, and they've been big responders to making the referrals directly instead of calling the hotline when they're worried about a family. And I guess I would kick it over to Kimberly to add anything else to fill in the blanks.
I think you kind of said it, most of it. Yeah. Um, I think, like another road to safety program was really like a springboard to the addition of our community pathway, of our third pathway. So most of the things that we already had in place with our parent engagement program transferred over to our another road to safety program, and we utilize the same engagement strategies with the third pathway families that we do for our ARS Path 1, Path 2 families. So that's all I would add that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I hear you really saying you worked with Brittany, a trusted community messenger, right? Like you looked in your community, you had this long-term relationship, you knew a better way was a trusted community messenger. You've done the historical investment, I think, in present day investment in lived experts, the career avenue and career pathway. That's amazing. I have a feeling there are many people here who would have so many more questions about how you did that, et cetera. Um, but it just sounds like you've really had a long-term investment with lived experts, and thus having people here today, having people be a part of your community pathways work, I think is really outstanding. I'm also going to invite the audience to put any questions you might have throughout this panel today. I don't know if we'll have time to go through those questions, but we may be able to take a few at the end. So as you're listening to the panelists, is there anything you think about that you're like, you know what, I wonder about that, or I want to know more about that, please include it and we'll try our best to have those answered. So I'm going to move to our next question and just ask, let's see, I'll go to Kimberly first, if that's good. Can you describe what your county's design process for your community pathway has looked like? And given your experience, what advice can you provide other comprehensive prevention plan teams regarding involvement of parents, community members, and caregivers in that design, or maybe a redesign process, right? Maybe people didn't get a chance to really do that how they would have wanted to first. How might they redesign that? Any thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. Well, like I said, this was the third pathway for ARS programs. So a lot of things mimics from what we were already using. The ARS program is an alternative pathway already. So we were providing, 6 months of case management services to families. We're helping them work on their goal progression. We're incorporating the protective factor. Staff are utilizing motivational interviewing strategies. As a way to engage the families, but the program also itself has nuances that most of the other programs don't, like it has basic needs services to families that helps them meet their immediate needs around food and transit and clothing and things like that. And the program consists of the six parent partners with the lived experience, and we also have the family support specialist staff who are our formal educated, clinically inclined service workers. And then our two program supervisors are both formally navigated child welfare parents. Who we promoted into leadership during that time frame. But when we partnered with Alameda County, we knew that we needed to create some kind of referral process that was going to work, and also how we were going to screen out families for candidacy. And we had agreed upon using the structured decision-making tool that was already in place, that is for the hotline screener that's used by child welfare to screen out reports. That tool was very helpful for us. We were able to screen out higher risk families and tailor to specifically our pathway candidacy. And that also helped us to streamline out referral forms, like update our referral forms, update our processes around getting the third pathway into the door. Most of those families, they also come in off the floor, off the street. We welcome them in. If they could just walk in, we'll take them and we'll screen them out using that tool. And then we also talk to the family about sharing a small portion of their information so that we can rule out if they have an open investigation happening, which might prevent them from working with us completely. So once we've done that, then we're like matching them with the best match of a parent partner to help them start working, goal setting and working together. Most of the families, like I said, in the social services programs with a better way, are all supported similarly. So we're drawing off of each one. All of the management or leadership team works together to make sure that this process is seamless for everyone. We also, like Brittany said, we did a lot of outreach with our community pathways. We made sure that we were advertising, that we were collaborating with other organizations, with hospitals, with law enforcement. And that was very successful because we now get direct referrals for our third pathway from hospitals, from law enforcement. They will email me and say, hey, Kimberly, I have this family. And we also take our walk-ins. We've had several parents come to us asking for help. And we've been able to engage them, enroll them, and successfully discharge them. And so in the short year and a half, I think we've had the pathway. A better way is peer parent programs. The success of this pathway is really because we have successful staff, because we have lived experienced staff. Over 90% of the staff that is in our programs are lived experience workers. They all come directly from receiving program services from our programs, either the parent engagement program or another road to safety program. So we hire directly from our programs, where they may have attended support groups within our program, parent cafes within our programs. And then we, ask them, hey, do you want a job? You're demonstrating really great leadership and abilities in those groups. And so they wind up applying, and we hire them as our parent partners, who then can come back and help families walk through that system that they walk through. And this is really important because families are more likely to engage if they have somebody that looks like them, that walks like them, that talks like them. Really, they are a light at the end of the tunnel for our families. And so it really gives them motivation to try and work, move forward and work through some of their challenges, because they have somebody alongside them that is, has been through that. Our staff itself receives such a robust and comprehensive training. Excuse me. And it's specifically designed for our lived experience workers as well, not just our formally educated staff. So they receive a long three-month intensive training from us, from our leadership team, to make sure they understand, the program, they understand how to do their engagement and outreach, and they are also receiving, support through their own well-being. Because we know that things come up during their work with us, during their work with families. So we want to make sure that we're addressing those things. And we learned that from our initial program, which is the parent engagement program, which as Brittany said, has been around since 2011 with A Better Way. So we learn many of those nuances, what to add to the program by what we've learned from previous practices. What else?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. So it sounds like, a couple notes, right? Relationships and collaboration have been a huge part of being able to make that happen, right? The positive working relationship between child welfare and your organization has been a real catalyst for the rest of the things to happen, right? I appreciate the sort of marketing and education that went out. I think that was a brilliant idea, right? Who should I call first? Brittany, I think you brought that earlier, right? How do you reframe? Who am I calling first? Who should I call first? Let me call A Better Way. Let me call, right? Instead of calling the hotline. And it sounds a lot like you've really done so much investment in with your lived experts and your parents and building on what works, right? I think that's a key piece for the design element too. What's already working? What do you have that's working? What relationships are there? What collaboration can you do? And yeah, what are the opportunities to do things differently or more innovative? Brittany, I know she provided a great
Yeah.
amount of information, but I'll ask you too the same question.
I just want to add only just a couple of notes. And this is like a call in for all the other child welfare or government agencies. One key thing that we've been doing in our department for a long time is really looking at racial disparity as it impacts child welfare and the underlying causes behind it. And about 6 years ago, we actually started our own fellowship, advancing collaboration and empowerment. And in doing so, we have studied the characteristics of white supremacy culture as they show up in child welfare. And as a result, because as you know, white supremacy does not require white people or white supremacists to do its work. So as leaders, we have to challenge where those characteristics will show up and deploy the antidotes to it. And two big areas of that is elitism and paternalism. So one thing I really had to do as a leader and my entire executive team is to really look at how government agencies, engage in paternalistic ways with community-based organizations. And then figure out how do we undermine that? How do we scale it back? How do we check ourselves? And the assumption that we know all the right answers because we don't. Um, so that is important culture work that's necessary so that we don't come in and replicate the same things we've always done, and we don't have the same relationships with our partners that we always have. The other thing I would say is just that we built into our RFP, our request for proposals, when we were putting the contract out to bid, that not only does the provider need to have experience providing services within the community, but that they need to meaningfully engage voices of folks with lived experience, and that was part of our rating process. And in doing that, because we created career pathways of lived experience, one of the expectations we had was that not only are they engaging and employing the voices of lived experiences, but that they're compensating them at the same level as a college degree so that it doesn't become a dead-end job for folks with lived experience, that it does enable them to have demonstrable work experience that allows them to grow and develop as professionals doing this work. So it's a slow process. If y'all know government work, y'all know we work at a very glacial pace. But over the years, every little bit moves the needle in the direction towards advancing collaboration and empowerment from the community. So I think it makes a huge difference in our working relationships and what we're able to accomplish as a result.
That's incredible, I have to say, right? Really, the fellowship program. And was that for child welfare staff, for partners? Who was the sort of audience for that?
It's internal. It's internal. It was it's 8 modules plus coaching plus focus groups. We evaluate the impact all the time. It's mandatory for all department staff in the Department of Children and Family Services. So everybody's going to get a chance to go through it. Our entire senior management team has gone through it. So yeah, that's the fellowship.
That's incredible. I mean, that's really an attempt to balance power, to really change the paradigm, right? To really shift things so you're not doing the work in exactly the same ways, just continuing to perpetuate the same problems and the same issues. That kudos to Alameda. That's amazing. Um, I'll say, and also just continuing, right, to in your RFP process, to have it be a requirement that the agency you're going to contract with is already working with supporting lived experts. I think that's another really, really great way to make sure, right, that you're building that into your system from the very beginning.
Well, and if you aren't lucky enough to have a partner like Kimberly Murphy in your area, I mean, we all started somewhere. So to build out the expectation that this is the direction you head in, I think is just as important if that's not something that's already established in your area.
Yeah, trusted partners, right? Incredible. That's the collaboration. That's what you all have built. Thank you. I'm going to move us into our next question, and this one is for Irma and Jorge. So, what systems barriers has your county encountered, and how have you overcome some of those? I'll go to Irma first.
Thank you. Yeah, one of the main ones that we are encountering right now, well, for the pet program with the family that we support right now is the getting them into like permanent housing or shelters. Just so overly packed right now. But yeah, that's really one of the main focus that we're dealing with right now when we get our parents in. It's the yeah the process of getting them into a shelter and into permanent housing.
And you'd say that's one of the biggest struggles happening for,
Yeah, one of the biggest
yeah,
barriers. Yeah, it's just housing, really.
yeah, unfortunately across California, right? Everywhere.
Yeah.
It's such a challenge. Yeah. Jorge, how about you?
Okay, for me, my experience with it ties to housing. However, it's more based off of immigration related barriers, right? Is fear around public charge rules, confusion about eligibility services, language and documentation requirements, right? When it comes to the undocumented community, it's hard trying to apply for housing. It's hard trying to apply for jobs. So, and services that may support the families in times of need, right? And when it comes to the jobs, it's just folks are stuck with low paying jobs, jobs that don't offer benefits, right? So when it comes to uh, you know, carrying around their children or having to attend important meetings and things like that, it's really hard because they can't miss a day of work, right? They
Right.
have to go to work. So that's a huge barrier. And sometimes it's like the jobs that are available for folks is their schedules are not 9 to 5 and which cause um, you know neglect in the children at times, right? Because they can't afford childcare, they don't qualify, or they're scared to apply because they think they don't qualify. And again, back to the public charge rule, right? Is this going to impact me if I, in the future, want to apply for any legal status here in this country, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah, just that's a huge barrier. When it comes to, like I said, applying for housing, do they qualify? Is their credit good? Do they even have credit? Things like that. So it's pretty challenging. And then when it comes to um, programs or shelters as well, shelters for undocumented folks are very, very, very limited, right? Very limited, right? So now, that becomes a huge issue or barrier in the communities.
I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, you're really up against some challenging things right now, especially for families who've immigrated here, yeah, and don't have documented status. Are there any, Jorge, would you say, are there any ways that you have found some little inroads into being able to help families or Yeah, any things that you've learned along the way that might be helpful for others to hear?
Oh, absolutely. It's just, not only, you know, looking and asking around, right? Networking is important, but also educating the parents around how how they can do it themselves, right? There are some ways of getting housing through certain programs that don't require legal status or documentations. So some of them can be a little high priced. However, if you're if there's two families in a household, they're able to maintain. And then shelters as well. There has been I think there's one organization that houses provides shelter for 6 months at no cost to families until they're able to find a place, right? They do have housing navigators and things like that to support them. But again, like I said, it's very limited, right? The wait list is long, and like I said, networking is very important, right? If you make connections with these folks inside of these shelters and say, hey, like, you know, having that one-on-one conversation, and you have a family that really needs this support for some reasons or whatnot, and at times it can be helpful, right? Building that connection and network with folks.
Thank you for that. I know that wasn't a formal question we had, but thank you for thinking about and sharing some of those ways that you are able to navigate some of those barriers. I heard you really say educating parents, right? Building their capacity to be able to know how to look for these things. Community networks, right? All of that, which is the fabric, right? Those informal community networks. Who knows who can you talk to? The lady on the corner knows about this and knows about this, right? Which is one of the protective factors. How do we help people social network? And relationships, right? I think that's the core of so much of this work. And what I hear you saying too, Jorge, like without those relationships with the shelter managers within the community, right? You can't properly serve all the families that you'd like to. So these are really great. Thank you. Um, I'm going to ask, you answered this a little bit, Jorge, but Irma, I'm going to go to you. What's it like to help parents move through the process of accessing supports and services?
So because of my life experience, I'm able to kind of voice out, my experience when I was navigating the child welfare system, and being able and completing what other people consider basic stuff like parenting classes, or being able to get into public transportation and stuff like that. So being able to provide that kind of support to the parents um, that we work with, it's a big thing. So we help them access, and like I said earlier, we help them with the basics like public transportation and how to get in one bus to get to their destination. Being able to provide them with like food bankings or any other community resources that they may need, as well as like being able to just seek for, maybe backup PG&E assistance that they may need, or any backup rent assistance that they may need, childcare. We help them understand how to utilize the childcare and how to, sign up and enroll them, or like not enroll them, but kind of get them, guide them into the direction where they can get employed by themselves, and being able to provide like a resume, simple things like that. What a lot of people consider simple things, but for them, it's a really new way of experiencing life, right? So,
Yeah, it sounds like Irma, through your own experience and knowing that process, you were able to really stand with them and walk side by side with them as they go through this process to try to access what they need to be successful and either closing their cases, getting their children back, etc. Would you say that's right?
that's right. We motivate them. A lot of the parents that that come to us, we start supporting them. They're lacking on like um, support network, or their support network is really negative. So we end up providing some positive support. They extend their support network. They see things a lot more differently, such as like therapy, as well as the child welfare workers. They start, being able to build a relationship with them, and understand a little bit more that we're all here to help the parents and the families, to find a different way, or to find their I'm sorry, my brain froze,
Take your
to
time.
find the support that they need, to build a different lifestyle, or to just get some basic support that their family may need.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Much appreciated. Jorge, is there anything you'd add to that? What's it like to help parents move through the process of accessing supports and services?
Oh, well, for me, I think it's very great because I'm really passionate about the work that I do, that I've done in the past, and I think most importantly is the educational piece, right? Is showing them and allowing them to self-advocate, right? Is to get to sometimes when a door closes in front of you, or they try to close it in front of you, you don't allow it, right? Just ask for a different direction. If they don't have the services there that you need or want, then ask, where can I get these services, right? But watching the whole process, and then the parents thriving, the families thriving with the services provided, it's very rewarding, right? Um, Most of the clients that I've worked with in the past have always, you know, um, shared how supported they were, and shared to wish they can continue longer with the services to learn more, right? Because I'm big on that piece. I'm not just going to give you the resources. I'm going to show you how to access them, how to navigate through them, and if they don't have it, like I said, they don't have it there. Don't just let them shut the door on you. Continue
Right.
self-advocating, right? So, yes, sometimes it can be a little challenging at times. Like I said, it's sometimes the with the undocumented communities, there's language barriers. You have, you know, the Mam speaking community, Pacific Islanders. You have some Asians that languages or services are not provided in their language, or there is no staff there to support them. So how do you educate these parents to um, find a way to get their needs met, right?
Mm,
So, but overall, it's great because I know what it felt like for me navigating these systems and trying to figure it all out, with very little support. So,
yeah. It sounds like you both really enjoy the work that you do. I hear the passion that comes through from both of you, right? And it sounds like being a mentor to parents is really key, right? And I think what you said, Irma, too, right? Helping to build their capacity so they know the questions to ask, so they know how to do it on their own. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. We're talking today, I think a lot this day is really thinking about family experience and how are families, so to Irma and Jorge, how are families reacting or what are families saying about their experiences regarding the type of support and services received through a community pathway approach instead of through a systems response? So, Irma, I'll go to you first.
Um, so I've been here at A Better Way and doing the parent engagement program for quite some time. I've seen different type of outcomes with families. The most powerful one is when we first get families, right? And the parents are just scattered everywhere, not knowing where to start. Their support network is not built. Um, and then after quite some time working with us as parent advocates here, um, the beautiful part is that we are able to extend their support network by providing them to support groups. So they find people, right? So that's how their support network is expanded. Then we also, a lot of the parents start becoming employed. And then they become either employed or going back to school, being able to get housed, being able to, be a member of society, I want to say, and it's a beautiful thing when the kids are all reunited with the families because they are able to provide, homes for themselves, like permanent housing, and they find a new way of parenting. I think that that's one of the biggest things that I have experienced with a lot of parents is that I didn't know because we're all product, well, life experience, right? We're a product of our environment, but at the end of the day they are finding new ways of seeing things or parenting, and I think that that's a really big beautiful thing that I always hear from parents, and being able to be proud of themselves and saying like, hey, I actually did this on my own, and with a little bit of help, but they take a lot of credit, so it's really good. No. But I feel like that's a beautiful experience that I hear from a lot of families that we provide support with
Yeah,
too. Mm.
that's wonderful. So having a really positive experience with you, you get a chance to see the breakthroughs that the parents are making, right? And, through a traditional systems response, they might not have gotten that, right? And you're doing things in a very, very different and innovative way. Jorge, anything you would add to that?
Just to add, like, uh, a huge relief, right, from the families, right, when they find out, oh wait, you're not CPS, you're not gonna take my kids, or you're not here to cause harm, you're here to help support, right? And always after the process or the services, they're very, very grateful. All the families that I've worked with have been nothing but grateful, and have shared that their experience was amazing, that they love the program, they love the services, the engagement, having someone to hear them out, and educate them and show them things that they didn't even know existed, right? They they accomplish things that they think they couldn't accomplish, in the past. So all just the positivity, that they say regarding the services, the advocates that provide the services from the the whole program in general, right? Even from supervisors, right? I've had someone one of my former clients told me, "Oh, I spoke to your supervisor. She was really nice, and I I didn't understand why she called, but she just wanted to know like how was everything going." And uh,
Hmm.
they're like, "Man, it sounds like you work at a really, really cool place, and there's a lot of love and support there." So and she even offered any additional support if needed, but I told her you were great, and so getting all that feedback is just all positive from the families.
Absolutely, because parent experience matters, right? The way that parents experience the support, the way that parents move through community pathways, that matters. That is going to be the difference between things working in a county or not working. They're going to tell their friends, they're going to tell their family. If things go well, go there, go talk to these folks. If things don't go so well, don't go there. They don't understand, right? They're not going to support you. They're rude, whatever it might be. I was going to ask Kimberly really quickly. I know, we talked about this a little bit before, but how do you capture family experience, right? Like how would you say a better way goes about doing that?
So A Better Way administers client satisfaction surveys at discharge or towards the end of services to solicit the feedback from families. So it's not just them calling and saying, "Hey, I had a wonderful experience," but it's also at our last meeting with the family, they're writing down how these things have impacted their lives. Some parents write really long narratives about their parent advocate, about their parent partner, and their experience. And we also, like Jorge said, the managers will contact families to find out what is their experience firsthand, and that's something that we do on a monthly, bi-monthly time frame. Even I'm a director. I still am not exempt from contacting families and seeing how they're experiencing our services, because that's really how we grow as a program, by incorporating the feedback that we get from parents. So if they're unhappy or they feel like, this parent partner said such and such, then we're going to try and rectify that. We're going to try and find out what is the situation and how can we improve your experience? How can we help you out here? Most of the time it's doable. Obviously we can't give people cars and houses and things like that. Most of the time it's doable, and the feedback is very positive, particularly with our path 3 feedback families. Those families walk in from off the street. They don't know us. Their engagement is very different from a path 1 and path 2, and they are extremely grateful. They are not afraid to say that. They know that managers are available to take their call. If they call me, I will answer the telephone. I'm not, like I said, I'm not exempt from that, and we'll try and help them as best I can to get through a situation.
Oh, that's great. I love that you said you do it also monthly, not just at like service intake and when things are ending, right? You're making those calls regularly to all your parents to find out how is it going, what's it like for them. No,
Right.
thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for that. I'll ask, this is kind of an open question for anyone, but what are some other key insights or takeaways that have surfaced throughout your community pathways work?
I could jump in. One thing that has been super clear to me for a really long time, is that people want someplace else to refer families so that they can get help. Because we only open the doors and people have been using it for years. So it's not like this is some new idea. My staff at the Department of Children and Family Services is amazing, and they're super dedicated. And a big part of our induction is not only about learning child welfare work, but we talk about those impacted communities. There's a day of ICWA talking about the government to government relationships we need to have with tribes and their citizens when we encounter them. But also, we have a day around centering the Black experience, because the data shows the impact on the Black community. It's there. It's in the statewide. And so to really just open up people to why you may be experiencing someone having a strong reaction to you. Because the truth is, a lot of times a mandated reporter is calling us because they want help for a family. But what they're not putting together is that we initiate engagement with an investigation. Nobody ever is like, oh, thank goodness CPS is here. So if you really want to help a family, start earlier, start upstream, and start with somebody like Kimberly. And I just really feel like, or a better way. A better way is bigger than Kimberly, but Kimberly's like my girl. And so, um, but like, and then make that process easy to access. Really just step out of the way. And I'm going to keep it 100. Everybody who knows me knows I do. One of the biggest challenges in implementing this community pathway is that it doesn't really feel like a community pathway if I can't just block grant the money to the community agency and let them do what they do and just let us know how they did it. But I have to do all this other stuff. I have to have somebody dedicated to agreeing that what a better way sees as the right way forward is what's going to happen. I have to agree that these people meet candidacy requirements. I have to agree there's all these other bureaucratic things that we have overlaid on what is a true community pathway, that I think that has been one of the biggest challenges. And
Mm.
I feel like my work as a county leader, as a government leader, is to continue to right size our involvement. I'm gonna be in compliance because I'm gonna try to hack this money to help the community as much as possible.
Right.
But at the same time, I got to figure out like how do I right size and check our involvement so we really are elevating the voice of our trusted partners who really are nimble enough to meet families where they are.
Absolutely. I really appreciate that you talked about your day of ICWA, right? Again, centering the Black experience. Like you all as child welfare are taking the initiative to do those things for your workers, right? To make sure that people have this context and have this education for when they're working with families to do things differently. Again, thank you. So I'll ask the question to others. What are some key insights or takeaways that have surfaced throughout your community pathways work? Anybody else who'd like to answer that or add? All right. If not, that's okay.
I
I'm,
can,
oh, please go ahead.
no, I was going to say, I can go ahead and jump in a little bit. I mean, insights or takeaways is the communication and meeting parents where they're at, right? That's very important when doing the work. I think that sometimes parents don't want to hear what they have to do. It's more getting their insight on what they need, right? Sometimes I think that the approach can determine the outcome, right? Just that having let them set their expectations, right? So that has been very that's key insight for me. That has been very helpful working with the families.
Absolutely. The approaches sounds like, right, the learning has been it's parent centered, it's at their own pace. You're starting where they are, right? You're not telling them this is what you have to do here, here, here. Here's some sheets, go off and do it, right? No, you're a very different style of partner. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. We have a couple of minutes. I'm going to just quickly look in the chat to see if there are any questions that have come in. Um, let's see. So we have from Humboldt County. Okay, let's see. Do you find a better way beyond a Title 4E waiver? And if so, how? Okay, that's one question. And do you, Alameda County, get a release of information and ROI from the family to make the referral to a better way from your hotline? If not, what mechanism beyond direct referral do you have? So I'm going to guess, Brittany, that second question is more geared towards you. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I think the first one, I wonder if it's a typo and they're asking about funding, how we fund a better way as opposed to how we found them.
There you go. Yeah, I
Um,
think that's
I
right.
could have that wrong, but
Yeah.
originally it was the Title 4E waiver that helped us fund or at least scale up our pathway process. Yes, and then our community pathway. But since the waiver has ended, we just incorporated into our child welfare budget because what happened is we did all this prevention work and you save money. Um, you end up having money for other things. Child welfare is expensive, but if you can fund prevention, it's an investment that pays off over time. And when we refer off the hotline, we don't do an ROI because we never make contact with the family. We give it to we refer directly to a better way, and they make contact within a few days. They cold call the family basically. I mean, Kimberly, you can speak to that.
Right. Once we receive the referrals, we do make a phone call, and they don't know who we are. We introduce ourselves, introduce the program services, and try and engage them in that way. If they don't respond, then we go out to their house and find them, and try and convince them to take our services. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going the extra mile,
Yes.
right? Right, really trying to support them. Yeah, a cold call can be really hard. Nobody knows who you are or
Yeah.
what you want, right? I think this one is more geared towards Jorge and Irma. The cost of housing continues to go up, and most of the single parent households we serve aren't able to cover the lowest of rent in any area, which often forces them to share with another family. Are there any programs you're aware of that teach safe and effective co-housing? Or have you maybe done any education around that?
Well, I'll go ahead and jump in on that. I mean, for most part, the parents find uh, their co-housing. They either through and that's something that I explained to them about uh, social connections, right? Is that how important that is, right? And that they're using social connections when they find housing, like through their job or the community organization, could be like the kids sports or something like that, right? To where they find, oh, my friend at work is renting a room or renting, a space, like a small, um, like in-law studio or something, and that's how they find that. Um, the co-housing piece. It's I have not yet had to find co-housing for a family. They kind of do that on their own, because they they look for folks that they can trust or they feel they can trust rather than just random folks.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. You're really encouraging them to use their social networks or to build new social networks, right? Like you're saying through sports or through other avenues. That question came from Zanita Brown. That's a great question, Zanita. If others are familiar with any sort of programs that teach safe and effective co-housing, you're welcome to put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we can always share that out. We are at our time. I know there are other questions and things coming in, and I just want to say thank you to all of you for the time and the energy. I know that it took to not only do this panel today, but to prepare for it. You are really, really appreciated, and thank you again. I think we are
Sarah,
next.
can I just add one more thing?
Yes, please.
Just one more nugget for my
Absolutely.
child welfare friends. I just want to say that CPS is like relatively new in the history of the world, in the history of human beings. We did not invent protecting children. People have been doing this, families have been taking care of each other and each other's children for generations, many generations. My own family includes lots of legal adoptions and grandparents and aunties and uncles, and other kinfolk who are not legally or biologically related to us. And this has been true for generations. So as folks think through what's the next right thing with a family, one thing I like to ask my staff when they're staffing cases with me is if there was no such thing as CPS, because literally that's only been true for like, I don't know, 50 years, 60 years or something like that. If there was no such thing as CPS, how would a family or community solve this problem? And then just do that. Just do that. That's the one, if there's one thing I want you to take away from anything came out of my mouth today, let it be that.
That's a fabulous nugget. Thank you for ending us with that, Brittany. Very well said and very appreciated. All right, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague and a fellow MC, Elisa Moore, who will take us into the next portion. Thank you, panelists, again, very, very much.
Thank you. And if we can keep Brittany spotlighted for just a minute, I have to make a special acknowledgement. So, Brittany, as you probably know, I think you know, I spent most of my career in Alameda County working in child welfare, and I knew who you were. And so when I moved to Sacramento and I came and joined our convening planning meeting, I knew your presence and your passion would shift and deepen our conversations and our planning. And in fact, that's exactly what happened. For example, you made difficult topics more explicit and bringing 100% to the room and the conversations. And it shifted the culture of our team as well as the convening itself. And I think you're seeing that right now and yesterday. And I just want to thank you for what you brought to this team and to the contribution to this convening. And you made a difference and an impact. So thank you. Yes, take that in.
Thank you. I'm humbled. Thank you.
We
Just
love
open my
you.
mouth and I
No,
worry about what comes out that'll get me in
it's all
trouble.
good.
But it's good trouble.
That's right. It's good trouble. That's right. That's what you are.
Very much.
So
Thank you.
thank you. All right, back to logistics. So next, our county-based prevention teams will come together, mostly in person. We provided a facilitator's guide to help your team reflect, connect, think, and learn together. We'll drop the guide in the chat for y'all, which most of you already have. The guide is a tool meant to create dialogue, share perspectives, and gain clarity in order to build meaningful action steps. Later this afternoon, your team will meet again. And similar to the morning session, your team may have a lot of different needs and choose not to use the guide, which is totally fine too. The time is yours, so use it as you see fit. All right, so next slide. I'll read through our first instructions for your first team session. If your team is fully in person, you can keep this main session open or leave the main session and just return to it when it's time for us to reconvene. Please do make sure you mute the session so we can't hear you in Whova. If your team is virtual or hybrid, you will return to the Whova dashboard via your open browser. Go to Agenda and then Sessions and click on your county Zoom team. Session rather. If you don't see your team, please just go to the multi-county statewide virtual room and we'll work with you there. That's available and optional for individuals whose prevention teams are not participating today. To support multiple counties or statewide providers, should you choose to join. To join, return to the Whova dashboard via your open browser, go to Agenda, then Sessions, and scroll down and click on the multi-county and statewide virtual session. So I think that leaves us ready to head out into our individual teams. To my team, is there anything else we should add before everyone departs for their first session? Okay, we're good to go. We'll see you all this afternoon. Thank you.
Enjoyed your lunchtime as well as the sessions before that. We had heard from so many wonderful speakers, and you got to get a chance to review that and do some activities with your team. Now we're going to shift a little bit as we wait for folks to trickle back on from after lunch. We're going to do a quick Mentimeter to engage you all. Next slide, please. All right, we're going to do a temperature check. My team member is going to place the link into the chat. However, if you are in person with your team, please go ahead and scan the QR code. If you're online today virtually, you can click on that link or scan on your phone. But go ahead and respond. Which one are you today? From looking from the cute little animal pictures. And my team member is going to share the results of the Mentimeter. So don't worry if you didn't catch the QR code. There's going to be the QR code again here. Awesome. A lot of responses coming in. We have grateful. Oh, that's a cute little puppy. We have also full or sleepy from lunch. We have exhausted. Yeah, it's been a long 2 days so far, and we're almost done with this day as well. We have some that are happy, some are feeling a little cranky, totally understand, and a little bit of checked out and a little bit of silly. Thank you, folks, for engaging with that. All right. We're going to go ahead and shift to our next speaker. We're going to hear from Maylee Johnson, the Deputy Director of the County of Calaveras. Maylee Johnson is a child welfare leader with more than a decade of experience advancing holistic, trauma-informed systems that support children and families. Maylee plays an active role in statewide reform through leadership and participation on multiple oversight committees focused on prevention, early intervention, and mandated reporting reform. The Calaveras team's work centers on cross-system collaboration, elevating youth and family voices, and building sustainable, integrated approaches to child and family services. So I'd like to welcome Maylee.
Hi, everyone. Thank you guys so much for allowing us to speak. I'll try to keep it a little bit entertaining and lively since everybody's sleepy from lunch and checked out and exhausted. I wanted my Calaveras County team to be able to join today, but we had a competing event with our Office of Ed folks. So you're just going to have me today. Next slide, please. Oh, one more, sorry. So in Calaveras County, we really do work very collaboratively across systems to ensure that all of the needs are met in all aspects of our communities, right? So I just wanted to take a few minutes to set the stage of where we started, talk a little bit about our community pathway model and how that has been developed. And then for some of our folks that are interested, because I get this question a lot, how we fund and sustain these programs in order to keep it going. Next slide. So our collaboration began in 2018, 2019, when we noticed a problem in our school sites where we were having some student mental health crisis and a spike in those responses to schools that were resulting in assessments being done at our hospitals, which led into a lot of collaborative conversation around how we respond to the needs of our kids. So we discovered that we had several siloed systems working with the same kind of population. So we had a lot of student mental health collaboratives. We had our SARB team, or our attendance review board. We had foster youth specific councils. We had review committees for our special education teams. We had child and family team meetings that were really ramping up at that time. And what we noticed through looking at these processes is that many families were interacting with multiple groups, which were causing duplicitous workloads. They were causing a lot of families to feel very confused about where they go for what service and support. And many of the same systems people were in the same groups, but we all had different meeting focuses for every single meeting, which was getting very cumbersome to the time of the people that were spent trying to serve these families. Next slide. So we created the Calaveras Care Team. And what that is it's a multidisciplinary team that really brought all child serving systems together to problem solve for some of the needs of our kids that were hitting every system. So our care team focused on proactive supports for children in need. We had a very unified approach to understanding the family's needs and which agency could best lead the charge in that. We used it to build trusting relationships among our agencies and among our partners. And we used that process to build and evolve and improve services and supports for our families, which led into improved efficiencies in coordinated care and greater resources because we were now coming to understand how we all coincided and served these to serve these families the best way. And we could share resources and share funding and share the responsibility of helping these families walk through our systems. Next slide, please. So what this did was this proactive approach early on created a single space for our agency teaming and a robust, we call it a 2083 team. It's mandated now through a memorandum of understanding that each of these system partners work together. So we memorialized it further into our memorandum of understanding. And in doing this, a true community pathway was created without additional child welfare or probation oversight. And we really focus on centering family voice. Next slide. So our community pathway is actually housed in the Office of Education. And if you go to the next slide, please, it'll show kind of how it's set up. So the Calaveras Care Team is held within the Office of Education. So it's not a child welfare initiative. It's not overseen by child welfare. we really are just a part of this team. We provide, our expertise from our lens, but we do not oversee or monitor anything that comes out of the Calaveras Care Team. So the Calaveras Care Team is the referral forms are housed on the Office of Education website. And these referrals can come from our community-based organizations, our school sites, our county departments, and parents can also self-refer into this team to be connected to supports. I think that what's really key about this program is we have a navigator that organizes our bi-monthly meetings. And we bring together all of the essential service providers from, of course, child welfare, education, mental health, probation. Our special education folks are there, and key community organizations like our Resource Connection, CASA, and our Children's Advocacy Center to help provide support. We also include our eligibility teams to help provide support with connection to benefit programs, and our public health team to help with some of that outreach. So every week, the navigator sends out our family action plans, our updates that outline the critical to-dos for that family. And where I think it's a little bit unique is our meetings are conducted with the families present whenever possible. And we foster a really supportive and inclusive environment in that way where they can really speak to what their needs are, and they can get immediately connected to the services and supports in the room to help with their specific issue or barrier. Next slide, please. So this is really how we do it. We implemented a structure through the approach to service coordination built around trust, which I think is something we've heard over the last 2 days is very important. And by embedding it in our schools, students spend a lot of time there. It's a trusted place for a lot of parents, and they have really great communication with their families. And that is really important, is the effective communication. So we provide comprehensive case management. We really focus on the importance of in-person meetings. So we found that holding our meetings in person fosters a sense of trust and urgency, and allowing the families to be present to really speak to their concerns and what they're seeing as a barrier and what their needs are has been very helpful for us to really support families and keep them out of child welfare or probation or other serving systems. And then we look at continuous improvement and adaptation. So the care team strives for continual improvement. We learn from every single family we work with, and we adapt our strategies and approaches based on their direct feedback and their outcomes. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit more about the funding and how we support this. I recognize there are a lot of acronyms on the next slide, and I will do my best to sort of explain that for folks that aren't as familiar. So next slide. So we braid a lot of funding to support this program. We have an agreement with our Office of Education that allows them to utilize our federal 4E foster care administrative activities dollars to help fund positions within their departments. We also have our independent living program for foster youth and our commercial sexual exploitation of children allocations designated to our Office of Education to provide support for our youth in extended foster care and our transitional age youth populations. The Office of Education has some money in there to fund some positions. And then now with the implementation of the Families First Prevention Services Act and our comprehensive prevention plan, we're embedding evidence-based practices like motivational interviewing to assist with some of the sustainability in the absence of the funding they had previously through the Mental Health Services Act. So by utilizing all of these different funding sources, we're able to work collaboratively together to develop a position or develop a pathway that is not overseen by child welfare and that is not overseen or, so what I'm looking for, families are not being surveilled. And I think that that really speaks a lot to the trust that they will have in our community, especially coming from a small rural county where everyone knows what everyone's doing. it really helps to shore up that trust in our going through our school systems. And I think that's it, unless there are questions. And I can't see if there are any.
Maylee, there's a question in the Q&A. How are children who are not school age served by this team?
So our referrals can come from anywhere. They're public. So we get Head Starts and preschool programs can refer. Parents can self-refer in. It's also, we do, I guess, road shows is the best way to put that. We present on it a lot in our community so that people are aware that it's there. We also get a lot of, I know not necessarily for the younger populations, but for our older kids that are in SARB or not going to school, our schools really provide a lot of the referral sources into that system. But our social workers in the child welfare space can also refer into that system, especially if we have families that we're receiving multiple reports on or something like that. We can bring it to that team. And what we do is we find the person that has the best connection with the family already to be able to do that communication and bring back resources and do those kind of things to get the family at the table in a way that they feel safe.
And we have one question in the chat for you. What does your ROI look like?
So we utilize an ROI from the school. So the school has their vetted release of information. And when the family signs that, they agree to be part of this group and they agree to come in person. And so we kind of blend those two processes together.
Thank you. There's one question. How have mandated reporters been trained to refer through this rather than child welfare? Is there a triage team to route calls away from child welfare to this process?
So we're currently working on that. Our school sites have been trained in the Calaveras Care Team as it's housed through the Office of Education. And when we go out and do mandated reporter trainings for our school sites, we talk about this alternate to reporting. It's still a work in progress. That is something that we're still working on. But we're hopeful that the more we talk about it, the more we assure, because part of that MDT process is we're all mandated reporters in that space as well. And the way that we train our educators is that if a report needs to be filed from that group based on the information we're getting, we will then take on the mandated reporter responsibility from that group. So it's kind of helping a little bit on the liability side for our mandated reporting community to be able to know and understand that if they refer a family into this space and a report still needs to be made, it will be made after we have those conversations. But we're actively working on that.
I don't see any more questions.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Miley, and I'll hand it over to Sarah Lacqua.
Hi, everyone. Maylee, thank you so much for the presentation. Greatly appreciated. We are running a little bit early. And so what I think we're going to do is, if I can go to the next slide, team can go to the next slide when you get a chance. We're just going to go ahead and start the second team sessions a few minutes early. Teams independently can decide how they want to do that. Do you want to do a quick break and then continue, or you just have a little bit of extra time to dive into conversation, which I imagine is what most people would prefer. So next slide, please, when you get a chance. Okay, so again, we're a little bit on the earlier side. That's okay. For team session number 2, if your team's fully in person, similar to the last time, you can keep this open or leave the main session and come back when there's time for when it's time for the plenary presentations. If you're virtual or hybrid, you return to the Whova dashboard, go to the agenda and sessions, and that's how you click on your county Zoom session. A multi-county and statewide virtual room, again, is available for those whose prevention teams are not participating today. support multiple counties, or statewide providers should you choose to join. And so to do that, you go to the Whova dashboard, go to agenda, then sessions, and you'll find the multi-county and statewide virtual session. We'll come back at we'll start the countdown at about 3:15, but we'll come back at 3:20 and we'll return to this session here. So go to agenda, then sessions, join the main session, and we'll have some additional county speakers. And a reminder just to head on back at about 3:20.
Well, for those of you who are still online with us, you're the marathoners of the convening. So congratulations. You made it to the end. We had a lot of really, really great material this last couple of days, a lot of great speakers, and I hope you're all feeling energized, even though maybe you're good sleepy, but energized at the same time and inspired, more importantly. We hope you had some great discussions today and were able to identify some action steps going forward as a result of your time together, which is always a welcome change, right? So next, we're going to hear from two of our colleagues, Sarah Glass with San Diego, and then Kristen Gast with Sacramento, for updates about their county's community pathways work, as well as maybe any of the conversations that they had today about moving their community pathways work forward in their respective counties. So I invite, there we go. Hi, Sarah. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I just got back to my office from our local offering of the convening, and I was feeling the words that I've seen in the chat, really energized and actually really inspired leaving there. So I'll just share a quick wrap up of how our went. We started the day celebrating accomplishments, and I needed that for myself because I think it takes a while to really to sit back and pause and reflect on the last several years of trying to build up this prevention ecosystem. It's really nice to be able to do that with the people that have really supported the uplifting of all of the things here. And so we celebrated a lot, but we really celebrated serving over 250 families in our community pathway so far. And we talked about the collaboration and the teamwork that went into making that happen. So we got to celebrate that with our people today and people that have lived experience in navigating the community pathway and our other child welfare system. And so that was really great to hear feedback, get their input, and help transform the system that we're trying to transform. From there, we actually got to host a panel presentation from many of our tribal leaders in the community who joined together to talk about the transformation that they're doing within their work and how that really does coincide with everything we're building within the community pathway here in California. And so we got to celebrate the successes there. We got to open a lot of doors for people to make new connections that they hadn't known before. And we also got to introduce our community response guide to the mandated reporter community here in San Diego. And so that's getting ready to launch here very soon. And so we wanted to introduce that to them and let them have some time looking at the community response guide decision trees. We talked about some of the barriers and challenges around mandated reporting and what that transformation could look like here in San Diego. And then just lastly, we wrapped up with things about the healthy outcomes from positive experiences framework, which I know we talked about last year at the convening. We have really carried that work forward here in San Diego since then. And so we shared some training updates that we had for the community. And we also talked a lot about our co-training approach to training HOPE within our child welfare department. We are working with the lived expert team to train our staff in that framework. So that's kind of how our day wrapped up here. It went really good. And it sounds like everyone else had a good convening as well.
You covered a lot of territory today. That's exciting. I wonder if anybody has any questions for Sarah at all. Do you want to pop them in the chat and we can respond to those? I have the feeling, Sarah, you're going to be hearing from some folks. How are you getting this done? How are you moving forward and serving so many families? 250 families with this community pathway so far. Sweet. Okay, well, we'll leave it for now. And thank you, Sarah. Appreciate your presentation. And Kristen, we'll move on to you, talking about your work in Sacramento with community pathways, as well as maybe any action items you came up with today.
Thanks, Elisa. So I'm Kristen. I'm with Strategy's technical assistance, and I supported Sacramento's comprehensive prevention planning team with their planning and facilitation of their day two. So we actually did mostly our own agenda. We touched on the statewide agenda for parts, but we really centered our day around the theme of we hold prevention together and also around family voice and experience. So it wasn't always directly focused on the community pathways, but I think all of these conversations are connected, and I think we really just had a good day of centering families, basically, and bringing everyone into the fold. So we started the day with a little intro from our deputy director of Sacramento County, as well as one of our community representatives, our community representative ambassador, who's a member of the Sacramento Prevention Cabinet, which is the governing body for our comprehensive prevention plan. And during his speech, he had a really beautiful statement that I wanted to share here, which is, we can't prevent what we don't understand. And he really said that to highlight the importance of always having community at the table. They understand their lives and their needs better than anyone else. So he really just hit home the idea that we cannot be doing any of this if we don't have the community actively involved. The deputy director also spoke about how the comprehensive prevention plan was an opportunity for the system to show up for families. And the idea of we hold prevention together means that families experience support as one collective network. We heard some updates from Sacramento Child Welfare on their Family First Prevention Services block grant strategies. And I wanted to highlight a couple of those because they really focused their block grant on primary prevention and innovative prevention strategies. So their strategies included things like childcare capacity building, concrete support funds that were available to families, and a guaranteed income pilot that's still ongoing. So some of the highlights from that: Concrete Needs provided support to over 900 families in Sacramento County and spent $1.95 million to support basic needs. So some of the top needs requests were things like rent or mortgage payments, emergency hotels, and essential furnishing. So it really went to keeping families stable. And then that guaranteed income pilot is still ongoing, like I said, and the analysis is being done both quantitative and qualitatively. There's some longitudinal interviews, but one cool thing that's incoming soon, probably in the next several months, is the participating families are engaging in a collaborative filmmaking experience. So there should be a film about that coming out. I don't know how imminently, but at some point. So we also heard some panels from families themselves. And we heard one of the panels that I really want to highlight is we heard from some of the parents who are actually participating in that guaranteed income pilot. And they highlighted the importance of getting their concrete needs met and getting them met without having to jump through hoops. They spoke to the fact that there's just so many barriers to getting public benefits, and all need something different, and they know what they need best. So having those funds every single month without constraints lets them pay for what they need, whether it's bills, transportation, healthcare equipment, or even school photos, something that really makes a family. But that probably EBT is not going to pay for. They also talked about the toll that worrying about their finances takes on their mental health, and how taking that off their plate opened up space for them to be more present with their children. And as they shared, if you care about kids, you really have to care about the parents too. We used some of the vignettes from the statewide agenda. That was a very wide-ranging conversation that I think is still ongoing. No specific action items that have come out of that, but we discussed things like intake forms and accessibility. Even if there are no language barriers, are we really spending the time to ensure parents know what they're signing and what they're signing up for? If there's a wait list, are families getting support in the meantime, or are we docking them for not getting services fast enough? And are we showing up in a way that allows them to trust us? And our last big agenda item was just leaning into the theme of we hold prevention together. And we had a panel that included multiple providers from across the county, such as Weave, which is our domestic violence and sexual assault center, Circle Clinic, which is a multidisciplinary health clinic, Wilton Rancheria, a tribe in Sacramento County, and a couple other providers too. And they spoke, about partnership, about what they already provide and how they already partner, and then how they hope to increase their partnership, including things like referrals, collaboration, and data sharing. And then we ended the day with postcards, which were just responding to that theme of we hold prevention together. And they're going to act as a sort of time capsule. We asked people to, say like what's one thing that they hope is different in 6 to 9 months, or that they hope to do in 6 to 9 months, they hope to accomplish, and we're going to mail them back out to participants as that sort of time capsule. And yeah, Sacramento's planning their community pathway now. And like I said, today didn't really come out with any concrete action items necessarily, but it offered an opportunity to reflect on where we've been and think more deeply about where we're going, and especially who needs to be at the table. A robust community pathway comes from more than just child welfare. It instead really needs to come from the whole community, which is more than just county agencies and providers. It's all of us. So conversations are ongoing, but it was just a really great opportunity to bring everyone together and remind everyone who needs to be at the center of everything we dream and design and plan and do, which is the families. So yeah, it was a really fun day. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you for that share. I just, as you know, I facilitated the day 2 of Sacramento the last couple of years, and I'm happy to pass the torch off to you. And I know that it was just such a productive day, and the relationships in that county are so positive, and there's so much humor between the different organizations that are part of the prevention cabinet, and everyone works really well together. And to your point with the postcards, I love the idea of using day 2 of this convening to really reflect on where have we come from a year ago. Really taking that time to be very deliberate and thinking about the progress and the areas that still need to be worked with. So I'm glad that y'all are doing that. I think it's a great idea. Love a time capsule. So thank you very much. Great report out. All right. So thank you both. I know the information you shared will help to inform community pathways work being done in other counties, and I imagine you'll be hearing from some folks after today. Before we part, I'd like to share a few resources and upcoming events, which we shared yesterday, but we'll touch on lightly again today. So the Office of Child Abuse Prevention and the Child Abuse Prevention Center in Sacramento are planning a lot of events for CAP Month, for Child Abuse Prevention Month in April. So there's a weekly webinar series. I really encourage you to watch that if you're able. It starts around 11 a.m. every Wednesday of the month in April. And it's just such a thoughtful series that's put together by folks from different agencies, including OCAP and Child Abuse Prevention Center, our Child Abuse Prevention Center partners, and so on. On Friday, April 10th, Wear Blue Day. There'll be a kids art contest, and the winners will be announced in April. And we have Parent and Caregiver Leadership Virtual Awards Ceremony, and Children's Memorial Flag Raising happens on April 24th. California Training Institute, please take advantage of these wonderful free trainings. They have so many innovative trainings throughout the year, and you could see some that are listed coming up in March and April. Child and Family Policy Institute of California has a summit coming up on April 28th and 29th in Sacramento in person. So check that out if you're interested. And then Chapin Hall and California Department of Social Services is offering 3 lived experience expert consultants at $100 per hour to support Family First prevention services, continuous quality improvement activities. So if you're interested in that, please do reach out to them. And I'll pass it on to Sarah to wrap us up.
Thank you, Elisa. It has been a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you for the county report outs. And I'd like to just, take us home. So if we can have the next slide. Wonderful. So if you were at the first day, you did get these dates, but as a reminder, or if you weren't at the first day, the convening planning team is very excited to announce that we have dates for, I know, 2027. It's hard to say even, but we do now have dates for the 2027 statewide collaborative prevention convening. So please mark your calendars for March 17th and 18th, same week as this convening is this year. And there'll be more information to come, and save the date cards coming out soon. Next slide. All right, so extremely helpful when we get good feedback on the evaluations. We'd love to know what went well today, and we'd love to know where the areas for growth, where are some places where we can have improvement. So we really value your feedback. Please know that the planning team reviews this feedback and we use it for the following year. We come back and we review this data. So please take a minute to do that. You can scan the QR code that you see here. So we'll leave that up for a little bit. And then also for those who have access to, or you're on a computer, the link is in the chat. That's another way that you can do the survey. We'll also be emailing the survey links out to everyone. So if you don't get a chance to do it today, that's okay. We'd love your feedback though, as soon as possible. All right. And our last slide here, you have a few resources if you would like more support. So you do have the FFPSA Prevention Services email address. There's also an FFPSA website through CDSS. As we mentioned, Caltrin has a number of different comprehensive prevention plan resources. It's a great collection of things that have already happened as well as things to come. So please check that out. And again, these links will all be dropped in the chat. Thank you, team. Also with strategies, we have info@strategiesta.org. We have a new website in the last several months. So if you haven't seen the new website and our TA offerings, please take a look at that. You can also find us on the following social media outlets here too. Lastly, we'd highly encourage folks to sign up for CalPrevent Statewide Connect. So I believe the team is going to drop that link in the chat as well. Lots of links coming through. So please take advantage of that. It's a great way to connect with colleagues, I would say, and stay connected between these convenings, right? So hopefully you've connected with new people. Hopefully you've heard information that was helpful to you today. So this is a way to continue that conversation. Additionally, I've been honored to be your co-MC with Elisa for today and appreciate all the time and energy you put into your county team time today. I know a lot of people did planning for months to make those county team time pieces successful. So thank you for that. I'd also like to thank everyone that made this event happen. That's from the planning team to the site leads and facilitators, the Spanish and ASL interpreters, and our closed captioners. And truly nothing would have been possible today without our amazing behind the scenes tech and production team who have worked so incredibly hard to make this event possible and seamless for everybody here. You are truly invaluable and deeply appreciated. Thank you. If you need more information, as we mentioned, you have all the resources here, and we're ending a little bit early. So hopefully that gives you some time back in your day to use effectively. And just thank you, everyone, for all of your time and energy. You are much appreciated. Take care, get home safe, have a good night.